Joining us now to help us understand the latest numbers, we have OCTA Research Fellow Guido David talking about this latest survey by OCTA on self-rated poverty. Magandang umaga. Welcome back to the show.
Yes, good morning, Gretchen, and to our viewers and listeners at Morning Matters, and belated Happy New Year.
Belated Happy New Year. There are dramatic changes to these numbers, no? 17 percentage points lower in terms of self-rated poverty. At pagdating naman sa food poverty, there was a 19 percentage point decline. How do you explain those numbers? What stood out to you in this latest survey?
Well, it stands out kasi, Gretchen, so we have been monitoring self-rated poverty and food poverty since 2022. Every quarter, isa yan sa mga probes that we regularly ask as public service. So we want to monitor the economic situation in the country. This is different from, let's say, the PSA data, because they get the actual economic numbers like household income, etc. Pero our survey is different because it asks about their perception, if they are feeling that they're poor or if they're not poor. So this is a nationwide survey with 1,200 respondents. And what stands out is that since 2022, this is the lowest number we have seen for self-rated poverty at 37. Yung previous low was something like mga 40, I think 41. And so, this is good news for our kababayans. Yeah, actually, the previous low was 41 at the start of at October 2022. So it was at 54 last September, and it went down to 37%. We also see na uneven yung decline niya in some areas like Metro Manila, Luzon, and Visayas. There's a decrease in poverty and food poverty, but not in some place like Mindanao, where it's still
the same.
Yeah, it's still up. It actually increased slightly. So, but we don't ask what the reasons are, pero we attribute this. Of course, may mga Christmas bonuses, but this was conducted December 3 to 11. Some people get their Christmas bonuses early. May mga there are also amelioration programs. But what I noticed, of course, is that inflation has already been stabilized. It's at 1.8%, which is a healthy inflation rate. It won't ever get to zero kasi some economic growth is still preferred, but it's not the high inflation that we have been seeing before years ago. Also, our unemployment rate is down to about 4%. So these are good numbers that I think helps. So I think government programs have been working, yung Kadiwa centers, access to food. In years past, we have seen some spikes in prices of some basic goods like onions or rice. Pero right now, we're not seeing that. And I think that has helped stabilize the prices of goods, and access to food has improved. And I think aside from the amelioration programs, hopefully we're seeing businesses coming back. Businesses are good for the economy kasi they bring jobs and they help our kababayans get employment.
But Guido, if you go around, maraming negosyo nagsasabi. Actually, nakikita ko rin online ito at pag nagtanong-tanong ka, na nagtitipid ang mga tao nung last quarter. Parang hindi raw pareho yung gastos compared to the previous years. Is that not reflected in these numbers? How do you explain that, the disparity in what these numbers show, the ratings on self-rated poverty and also actual spending?
Well, maybe that's part of the reason, Gretchen. Maybe people are smarter with money, and that's why they're not feeling as poor anymore. Maybe binawasan nila yung mga extra expenses nila. I mean, even for some businesses, I'm seeing na for basic needs, businesses are still good. But for some of the other, let's say, yung mga more luxury, it has been affected, except for businesses that cater to those with money, who still have extra funds for these expenses. So mga extra expenses. But for the average Filipino, maybe they have become better with their budgeting. I mean, that's possible. Kaya maybe they don't feel as poor anymore. I know that some people, or maybe a lot, actually take on more than one job just to be able to survive, or not just survive, but to be able to afford their
Save. Oo.
needs, pambayad ng mga expenses ng ng rent, vehicles. So maybe we have become more resilient in a way. So that's possible. But we'll see. Kasi we conduct this survey every quarter, so we'll see if the trend continues, or if it was really just a byproduct of the December, Christmas season, and baka pagdating ng first quarter by March, baka tumaas na naman, which is possible because this is not these things never are not usually long-term trends, unless of course we are able to find long-term solutions for our problems, which I'm hoping the government will have long-term solutions for the Filipinos.
Okay. Does self-rated poverty reflect actual income, or is this more of self-perception?
It's self-perception kasi we see that even for ABC, some members of the ABC, some respondents, actually 10% consider themselves poor. Of course, sa socioeconomic class E, 61% consider themselves poor. So that's not expected, or that's not unexpected rather. But for socioeconomic class E, 4% actually consider themselves not poor. So it's possible that maybe iba-iba naman yung situation. Maybe some of them don't earn as much, but they can afford their basic needs. Whereas 51% of ABC consider themselves not poor. So maybe a lot of them, even though 10% of them, even though they're earning enough to be called C or B or A, they still consider themselves poor because maybe their spending is not matching what
Higher.
they're earning.
Oo. Pero in terms of your numbers and your respondents, ilan percent ang nanggagaling sa Class E, D, and ABC?
Majority still comes from D. I think more than 60% from D. So that's still the bulk of the Filipino population. Sa E, it's smaller, around 30, and ABC is only around 10%. So
So
yes,
you mirrored
this is
the
very
population.
skewed. Yes.
Okay. And hindi po ba, pag sinabing bonuses natin, isn't that something that we do experience every last quarter of the year, every December? But so what made this stand out? Why do you think was there a dramatic shift? What was the difference? Because bonuses come every year.
Right. And you're right, Gretchen. So in fact, last year, we didn't see the significant drop in the self-rated poverty in December. So maybe because of the inflation then, in 2023 and 2024, we were still seeing significant inflation. And right now, inflation has stabilized. Oil prices have been stable at around 50 plus. So these factors, I think, help contribute. And maybe mas sanay na tayo sa prices of goods, and we're able to budget our expenses a lot better. So again, we will see siguro after this quarter, I mean by March, when we have our next survey, is if this trend will hold, or I expect it will probably uptick slightly. Maybe it will go back up to mga 40s. That's just my own personal prediction. Usually lower talaga pag December. But hopefully it won't get back to 54 like it was no September.
Kasi marami kang pera pag December, pag ng January, puro utang na, marami ka nang babayaran. Okay,
Yes,
there's another number here, which is food poverty, which also experienced a 19 percentage point decline. Is that significant?
Yes, the food poverty is actually usually correlated in with self-rated poverty. Although we just ask it as a sort of a balancing question, or as a comparison. When we say food poor, if they're not able to access good food, nutritious food, then they would consider themselves food poor. 30% is also the lowest we've seen for food poverty. So may connection din naman siya doon sa self-rated poverty. Again, this is good news and maybe connected din dito yung access to affordable food, Kadiwa centers, some of the programs of the national government.
Bakit kaya mataas pa rin o iba yung nagiging resulta sa Mindanao?
Good question. When we break down the numbers, we see na sa Metro Manila bumaba yung poverty and food poverty, pati sa Balanced Luzon, and even sa Visayas. Sa Mindanao, it remains high. It is actually a good question that I can't answer because I don't have eyes on the ground in Mindanao. I'm not from there. But we should ask those questions. Are they getting the same access to food in Mindanao? Are they getting jobs in Mindanao? This is not just an accountability of the national government, pati din yung local governments sa Mindanao. So we should take a good look at what's happening in Mindanao. Bakit may mga kababayan tayo who are feeling food poor sa Mindanao? I mean, what's going on? So there should be more coordination with the national and the local governments in Mindanao as well.
Along with the survey, do you have data on what the primary concerns of Filipinos are? Is that included here? And what should government prioritize now to prevent families from slipping back? Is it prices? Is it jobs? Is it targeted aid?
Yeah, we regularly ask yung urgent personal concerns and urgent national concerns. Hindi pa na release yung data na yan, so I can't answer that. But as of last quarter, the top concerns were still food security, jobs, income, health, and kasama na rin sa top concerns yung yung corruption in the government. Although yung leading concerns are still economic factors, health factors, food security, and access to needs. So, and I expect that it will continue to be the same paglabas ng data namin.
If you take a look at the economy, the Philippine government has not hit its target by a small percentage, parang nasa 5-something%,
Yes.
para from a higher, I think 5.6 ba yung
Yung target, yes.
ng Pilipinas, pero we didn't reach that. But would you say that the economy is relatively stable?
Yes, we didn't reach the GDP target. I think 4% is the number, the actuals, and the target was, you're right, it's around 5-point-something%, maybe 5.5, 5.6% was the target. So we didn't reach that. But the GDP as a whole naman, although it's a strong economic indicator, it's tied to the whole country. But I think yung individuals on the ground, most of the average Filipinos will not feel the GDP effects din naman, because this is a macroeconomic feature. What we're seeing is more of yung immediate needs natin, is our monthly income enough to pay for our needs? And as we mentioned earlier, because nag-stabilize inflation, maybe it's sufficient, and maybe because Filipinos are able to budget their finances, and some of them are taking on second jobs or sidelines, or business sila on the side. They're doing maybe iba nagsa-social media business, being an influencer or something like that, to help sustain their lifestyles.
And with all of these developments, do you think that's enough to somehow arrest concerns over political unrest? We do know that alongside all of this talk on the economy, we are on the verge of a political crisis if we are still not yet in that state, no? Do you think being able to control all these things, self-rated poverty, prices, inflation, would be enough to keep people from doing anything that would be pivotal to Philippine governance?
Well, I'm still hearing a lot of noise about the political, situation, the corruption. But we're seeing some events happening, some changes. Meron ng mga, well, we're seeing the continued hearings ng Senate, and some outcomes are happening, ongoing. So I think the political, I won't say it's unrest, but at least the awareness is still there. I don't think it will go away. Lalo na pagdating ng tag-ulan, Gretchen, baka magkakaroon ulit ng pagbaha. So even though this is a good indicator, and it's telling the government that they're in the right direction, we have to continue doing good things for the Filipino people para maging mas masaya sila. I don't think na, this is enough. I mean, it helps, but I think the political situation is as it is right now, and people still want to see results in that.
All right. Okay, maraming salamat for giving us that report on the latest OCTA research survey on self-rated poverty. We have OCTA research fellow Guido David. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Gretchen.